I'm your moderator today, Sergeant Major of the Army Retired Dan Daly. I had the honor of serving as the 15th Sergeant Major of the United States Army, and today I have the privilege of serving as the panel moderator for the fine gentleman to my left here. Our next panel is titled Leadership from Military Service to the Private Sector. Before we get started, I'd like to thank the American Veterans Center for hosting not just this event, but all the events this week, and for Veterans United Home Loans for providing the support to make this happen. Our panel today deals with a topic that is very near and dear to my heart, leadership. Our distinguished panel members, who I will introduce in just a moment, were kind enough to join us to provide their perspectives on leadership, ethics, and character from service to the military to their careers in the private sector. General Omar Bradley, the first chairman of the Joint Chief of Staff, once said that leadership is intangible, and therefore no weapon ever designed will replace it. I got a lot from the General Omar Bradley's quote because it underscores the fundamental principles of leadership. Leadership is not something that you're born with. It's not something you can buy. It can be taught, but it must be exercised through practical application and refined over time with experience. Here to provide us their perspectives on leadership is three of distinguished gentlemen who have demonstrated success in both uniform and in their careers following transition out of service. Our first panelist is Major General Gary S. Patton to my immediate left. General Patton, a 1979 graduate of the United States Military Academy, would serve on active duty for 35 years, serving in key positions on the staff of the Secretary of Defense. Within 45 months of combat duty in Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom. Currently, he is the Vice President for Military and Veterans Affairs at CACI. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me in welcoming Major General Patton. Our next panelist to his left is Matthew Rhett Jeppson. Rhett is a veteran of the U.S. Marine Corps. Rhett served on active duty for 28 years as an infantry officer, spending significant time with U.S. Special Operations Command. He has been deployed in conflicts ranging from Operation Desert Storm in Iraq to Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. After he led the U.S. Mint, so he was selected to lead the U.S. Mint, he currently is with the Director of External Engagements for the Office of Military Veterans Affairs at J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome our next panelist, Matthew Rhett Jeppson. And last but surely not least, to his left, is Alan Levi Simmons. Alan is a USMC veteran as well of Iraq and Afghanistan, who wrestled with PTSD from a traumatic brain injury he sustained from an RPG blast. He battled depression and suicide as he forged his path of purpose and inspired hope in those around him. Now he's an author, a motivational speaker, and a coach. He now works for IBM as a software support professional at IBM. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome Alan Lewis Simmons. So I've started for each of the panelists, we'll ask each of them to take a few minutes to share their story and provide our audience with their perspective on leadership before and after the uniform. Once complete, we'll take as many questions as we have time for. So cadets and midshipmen, I want you to start thinking about what you want to ask these fine gentlemen once they give you their presentation. At this time, I'll turn it over to Major General Patton. Sir.
Yeah. Thank you, Sergeant Major. And I want to thank you for that introduction. I want to thank American Veterans Center also for the honor and privilege of sitting here today, but more importantly, being able to follow the heroes that we have seen here today, from World War II paratroopers, Rosie the Riveters, the Navajo Code Talkers, Tuskegee Airmen. I mean, these were my heroes when I was growing up. I grew up in the 60s and 70s, and they are the men and women who inspired me to serve. And so really the theme I'd like to talk about in my short remarks is a lifetime of service and continuing to serve. And maybe that's one of the threads that connects us all. Of course, we're all veterans. That's a thread that connects everybody on the panel and the panelists you've heard before us. We've all sworn an oath. we've sworn an oath to defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. We don't swear to defend a person. We don't swear to defend a country. We swear to defend an ideal and the document and the ideals captured in that document, the Constitution of the United States. And then we're also, I think, connected by the thread of selfless service and the service that we give that is committed to our nation. And I think my fellow panelists here will join me in saying that your service doesn't end when you take off the uniform. And that's really, I think, the theme of this panel. So I'm going to talk to you about what I do today and how I consider that to be really a continuation of my service. I'm reminded of a couple weeks ago I sat on a panel. I serve as a mentor, a senior mentor for all of the general officers transitioning from the United States Army. I retired from the Army in 2014. I've been with the company for 5.5 years called CACI. I'll talk about that in a little bit. But I serve on this panel, and we help mentor the general officers transitioning from the service. Well, everybody needs a mentor, and transition is hard for everybody. And someday, after your service ends, you'll transition as well. But I was asked a question on that panel, and it went like this. What are you most grateful for, especially during this time where you've taken off your uniform? And so we heard from other panelists. One of my longtime colleagues and friends, his response was, well, I'm grateful for the work-life balance that I have now that I'm out of uniform. For the first time, I've been to all my, a year where I've been to all of my children's birthdays. And now as a grandfather, I get to drive them to school. And this was what he was most grateful for. And I could relate to that. I don't have any grandkids yet, but I could relate to the work-life balance he was referring to. Another one of my colleagues' response to that question, what are you most grateful for? He responded with, I'm grateful for my continued good health. And as you get older, your health becomes very, very important. And especially in the wake of, or amidst, hundreds of thousands of Americans dying of COVID. So, I think being grateful for your continued good health as you leave the service is also something to be thankful for. And then my response was, although I could relate to those two, my response was, I'm most grateful for the opportunity to continue to serve. Because the position I am in today with a defense contractor, I run the Military and Veterans Affairs program. Every day I talk to veterans who are looking for jobs, and the best way that I feel we can help veterans today is by giving them jobs, great career opportunities, and allowing them to achieve a decent quality of life with a good career opportunity. And in my company, we also have values that are very important to us. And those are the same values that are shared by the services. Our company value statement is literally borrowed from the service value statements. Commitment, honor, integrity, and respect. Those are our CACI values. Each one of those words and values come from and is borrowed from the service value statements. Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marine Corps. And we live those values every day in our company. So again, just because you're taking the uniform off doesn't mean it's the end of service. I continue to serve men and women in uniform, those who are transitioning. Just last month, I helped 275 transitioning service members get hired in our company. They've joined the ranks of about 8,000 veterans who are now employees in the company. And so there's a big talent acquisition piece there of helping them in transition. The values, the leadership, the work ethic, the self-discipline, all those things that our men and women in uniform practice every day in uniform, now they get, those same things make them successful in the business world. And it's why nearly 50% of our new hires for the last couple of years have been transitioning service members and veterans. They excel in that environment. Of course, they don't come into the business world experts in business, right? I mean, that's something that comes with learning and with more training and with development and so forth. But our service members, I was just asked the other day from one of our senior leaders in the company, well, what training do we have for our transitioning service members who are coming into our company. And I said, you know, what leader training was the question. I said, our veterans don't really need any more leader training. We are already leaders at every level, from NCOs to officers. And the same principles of leadership that we practice in the uniform are applicable in the business world. Now, we may need some extra training on the business aspects of it, for sure. And we run courses that help our employees, you know, get their feet under them and then develop within the company. But the point I'm making is that your service doesn't end when you take off the uniform. And so after a lifetime of service, I'd like to just share with you a few points and things that I think have guided me in my lifetime of service. And you know, my lifetime of service started as a youngster. Again, I was inspired by the World War II heroes. I grew up in the 60s, a very turbulent period with Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement and all the Watergate and everything else associated with those things in the 60s and 70s. But amid all that, we still had a pop culture, a very popular culture of World War II, because it was less than 20 years. So the time that you've seen from 9/11 in 2001 is about the same period of time that it was separated between me and the end of World War II when I was a kid growing up. And so I was really inspired and influenced by the heroes that surrounded me. My dad was a World War II veteran. My uncles were all veterans. And the pop culture of the movies of that era. And then lo and behold, in 1970, as I'm just starting to think about service in the military as a teenager, and I think I was in 9th grade at that age, what do you think happens in 1970? The movie Patton comes out. That's my last name. I am not related to the General Patton in the movie. If you haven't seen the movie, please watch it. I mean, you can get it on any of the streaming things. But it's a great movie. It's about World War II. And little did I know when I saw the movie Patton come out that 5 years later, I'd be standing at attention like these cadets over here, and I'd be a plebe, and I'd be reciting lines from the movie Patton to some very attentive upperclassmen who made sure I got the words right. And I remember 46 years ago as a young plebe at West Point, you know, at this point in time in the year, what are we thinking about? In about 5 weeks, we're going to beat Navy. What the hell? Beat the hell out of Navy, right? No, not over here. I'm looking at the wrong crowd, but lucky, just stay seated there. No,
I think the soldiers are a little tired today. When I did the service check, I think they were a little tired or sleep. But.
Yeah, but so just a couple quick points that have helped me guide me through my service, lifetime of service. Number one, find your inspiration. You may be inspired by other heroes. You'll be inspired by men and women you serve with, and that sort of thing. Find your inspiration. Number two, frame your service with role models that you really look up to. You'll find NCOs and officers, you know, that you fall under their command and that you serve with, and I can name hundreds of them that I've been inspired and have followed their path and have emulated them as role models through my time in the military. And then number three, take good care of your troops, because they'll take good care of you. I'm here today talking to you because one of my troops, Staff Sergeant Joe Ramos, saved my life in November of 2004 outside of Ramadi, and in a couple other of IED ambushes that we fought our way through in my 4 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. Take care of your troops, they'll take care of you. And then lastly, and this is what has served me in the job I'm in today, and why I consider myself, I think I have the best job at my company, is follow your passion. You can do a lot of things when you get out of the military, but follow your passion and do what you think, what you're good at and what you like doing, because it's the next chapter in your life. And I've found a job, again, I'll go back to what I started with. I'm grateful for the opportunity to continue to serve, because I found a job that I'm as excited about today, and helping veterans and finding them career opportunities and leading them in our Veterans Employee Resource Group and meeting with charities and veteran service organizations and so forth, because that's the way that I can continue to serve. And I feel the same passion doing that job as I had when I was in uniform. So again, a lifetime of service. It doesn't end when you take the uniform off. And I think those are just a couple of things I'd like to share with you. Thank you for your future leadership in our military. I feel like we're in really good hands, and I'm standing by for your questions when it comes to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll transition over to Rhett, sir.
Yeah, well, thanks. I think that, well, first let me start by, thanking our host here for this wonderful event and inviting me here to speak a little bit about leadership and the transition period. I was able to go to the event last night and saw you on stage there and really appreciate what you guys had to say. If you didn't get there for the event last night, I think it was fantastic. It really focused on our wounded warriors, their transition, the healing process, and I really like some of the messages I heard there that were just fantastic. And I think that everything that we'll say from now on, General Patton got most of it, right? Those themes resonate. They're just part of the transition process. But when I look at the audience here, the vast majority of what I see here is I see people just about to embark upon their service life. I see a few, of us older folks that have served and have come back. So let me just talk for a minute to the younger, our cadets, our midshipmen, our OTC candidates, other in the room real quick. So I'm going to tell you two stories real quick about things that kind of shaped me as I came up. So first was when I was a lieutenant. I checked into my first company. And my company commander just got there before me, and he had just come from Ranger School, where he was one of the distinguished honor grads there. And one of the corporals that had just checked in had also been in the same Ranger School class as him. And he was telling us stories about Captain Bean, our company commander, and he talked about, he said, you remember seeing him, it was, probably just as they were getting ready to go to jungle phase, last phase of Ranger School, that one of the soldiers there had lost an MRE, and he'd started to break down a little bit. And as you know, you've been sleep deprived, you've starved, and you're on the edge right there. You're pushing. Ranger School will push human limits about as far as they'll go. And the young soldier had started to break down a little bit. And at that point, Captain Bean took part of the MRE he had, and he went over and he gave it to this soldier, right? So it's this selfless service, sacrifice, giving up personal comfort, personal necessities for the others around you. Those lessons that you'll learn, those examples you'll see in the service will have a direct impact on the rest of your life, but it's what will shape you to be a better individual, but better when you leave the service. And that's, just another example of how your time in service and how you act and the lessons you learn and observe there. Pay attention to that, because it'll affect you the rest of your life, because those same principles, although maybe a little bit different, they apply in the corporate world. Are you a good team partner? Are you willing to kick up the slack? Can you help a comrade or a companion when they're down? That's just so important, and that's where service members excel. Too much of the world today is about me, I. And you see that. You see, I was in D.C. for a long time here, and I'd see some young old people came here, and it was all about what position they were going to get in the government, what they were going to, and it was about I, not about how am I helping people. And so no place has better examples and role models than in the service. I remember when I was going through, I had to go up to the Hill. I was going through confirmation process. And you have your confirmation hearing, and for me, it was in front of the Senate Banking Committee, and I told them that it's absolutely true. Everything I know about leadership, I learned in the service from my father, and I learned in the service, and I'm grateful to those Marines, and I was in the joint community, so I learned a lot from my Army and Navy and Air Force brothers and sisters. The other story I'll tell you real quick, and not the way this is. So right after Desert Storm ended, I was with 2nd Battalion, 3rd Marines. We were the breaching element going into Kuwait. We hit them on the elbow before the Army made the big hook out into the desert and really stuck it to the Iraqis out there. But, we fought through the oil fields. We get up there, and And so I was on the first group of Marines. We come back to Manifa Bay, which was our staging base to return to the U.S. We get on the first plane load of Marines, come back. Haven't showered, probably in weeks. Oil still all over our utilities, our camouflage uniforms, just we smelled like camels. And so we get on an airplane and we fly pretty much nonstop to Saudi Arabia. And we come back into the States, and we came into JFK. And they kept us in the old Pan Am terminal, but after we secured the weapons and everything, we had 2 hours. And I remember at the moment we walked out into the main terminal, people started to chat, clap, and cheer, and they really celebrated us. And I was very grateful. But in that moment, I knew what was happening here. To a large degree, it was America trying to make up for the way they had treated the Vietnam-era service members when they'd come back. And the reason that they treated us like this, and we had a hero's welcome, and as we came back from other conflicts, even the more recent ones, OEF, OIF, we were treated well. It's because the service members before from that era said never again. And they went out and they ensured that we enjoyed that. And so we owe a debt of gratitude to them for that. But the responsibility is going to be with you young people to ensure that that's passed along to those who will follow behind you. So we have a duty to not only those who preceded us, but those who will come after us to make sure that we honor and respect that service. I will just close briefly by, I look forward to your questions about transition. I work with a great firm with J.P. Morgan Chase here. We were just talking about the Veterans 100,000 job mission that was started about 10 years ago. We quickly changed it after 2 years to the Veterans Job Mission because we're at about 750,000 veterans employed. But we value the veterans in our company. We seek for them. We have special recruiters that look for them just because of the talents and skill sets. But it really directly relates back to our sense of community, sense of purpose, and that selfless sacrifice and service. That's what makes veterans so valuable. And those are lessons you're about to learn in ways that you can't possibly imagine. So with that, I'll be quiet and turn it over to my fellow Marine. Hoorah.
Cool, let's give him. Thank you, sir. And I know that we're going to be looking forward to get questions, everybody. But before we do, Alan, please.
Sorry, you got to wait on me. Clap your hands if you believe in yourself. Clap your hands if you believe in yourself. Say, I believe.
I believe.
I believe in me.
I believe in me.
I believe in you.
I believe in you.
Let's try it one more time. Clap your hands if you believe in yourself. Clap your hands if you believe in yourself. Say, I believe.
I believe.
I believe in me.
I believe in me.
I believe in you.
I believe in you.
High five somebody next to you. High five, high five, high five. There we go. I just had to wake y'all up and shake y'all up. So they're talking about leadership. I'm a little different. I'm the stray cat on the side of the road, so I got to do it a little different. So I'm going to share a piece of something that helped me got through my PTSD. Bombs over Baghdad. Boom. Bombs over Afghanistan. Boom. How did I get into this? As I reflect over my life, I remember a time when I could not picture this. Death. Death is everywhere. Wherever there is war, death follows in it, is everywhere. Reflection. Mirror, mirror on the wall, who am I after Twin Towers fall? I am no longer disguised in camouflage desert gear. I'm clicking my heels at attention, praying for God to take me out of here. These combat scars mark my soul. Bullet rounds were shot to part my body from my soul. I just can't recognize who I am, my God. I can't even recognize whose I am. IEDs and RPGs leave my brothers and sisters overseas. Death, tornadoes through the desert valleys. We've lost so many brothers and sisters. Body bags. These dead bodies can't help me. Body bags leave the war, and I know one thing for sure, that one of those bags had my name on it. Who am I? These wars have us asking questions like, who am I? What am I? How did I become this way? I stand here mesmerized that my body didn't comply when the RPG landed a few feet next to me. My body went somewhere in the air, or maybe the blast pushed me against the surface of the earth. I'm not sure. I'm not sure how I got to this place where my ears are ringing like a smoke detector, my heartbeat singing loudly, slowly fading into a whisper. I'm trying to paint this picture. I want you to see this as if you were standing next to me. Isn't it amazing by God's amazing grace that you all can stand next to us? Can you see the sweat from my fears? Can you feel the desert wind brush gently through your hair? Can you hear the cries of mothers, fathers, sisters, and brothers echo through the years of war? Can you understand the sounds of bullets grazing the earth? Can you imagine a new me being birthed from sand? You may ask, how can I believe in a God who made Adam from Eden's sand, yet he birthed me from the sands of Baghdad and Afghanistan? I didn't come home the same. I couldn't gather the pieces of my pain, the thesis to my pain. How could we come home the same? You see, I was born 4 times, born again 3 times. The first birth came from the womb of my mother. The second time I was born from the womb of Iraq, heart unattached. The third time was more than a charm from the womb of Afghanistan. The fourth time and the last time I was baptized into God's miraculous plan. I remember, gun in my hand, pills on my bed, Bible laying on my nightstand, gun in my mouth, finger on the trigger. I'm knocking on the doors of heaven, wondering if anyone's home. Thoughts scrambling in my head. Panic attacks, I'm trying to blow a hole through my head. I felt like someone was waiting underneath my bed. I wanted to die quickly before I lie down for the last time to finally rest my head. I'm thinking, why am I feeling this way? Why am I paranoid day by day? Why is it storming in my mind when it was sunny all day? So I'll stop right there. But thank you. So, thank you. So, we're talking about leadership, and weirdly enough, this guy came up and did a poem. So hopefully when you go home tonight, you'll be saying, bombs over Baghdad, boom. But I never have I ever performed that in front of military members. So I am so honored to be able to share that. I've been at bars and clubs sharing that, and people are like, oh my God, this is crazy. But I wanted to share that so that you all can understand the history like we've been talking about. There's been bombs over a lot of places. There's been body bags over in a lot of places. So when we talk about leadership, it's so essential and important that we talk about those we've lost, because we've lost a lot of leaders. And then we have leaders that came back that were no longer whole. You know, I always struggled with the fact that I came back home because I was in an RPG explosion, but I looked like I just stepped out of a magazine. You know, I was shot at by the Taliban, but, you know, I'm still whole. You know, and I was so confused because people were telling me that was one deployment. You were with EOD. Those guys go so many times, you know, and that was your one time in Afghanistan when you found an IED by your foot. That was the one time when you got pushed back by an RPG blast, you know, and so I wrestled with my experience and my encounter with war. So I wanted to be vulnerable and share that with you all, because just because I can stand up here and say I'm a United States Marine, I deployed, I did X, Y, Z, there are still battles that I go through internally. So as leaders, how do you work with those who come back unwhole? You know, how do you lead the broken? And I was telling someone last night, they were asking me, well, what do you have for advice for me, you know, when I go and lead Marines? I said, make sure that you lead with compassion. As a Marine, I didn't meet a lot of leaders with compassion. I met a lot of leaders with a lot of heart, with a lot of soul, with a lot of grit, but a lot of leaders didn't have compassion. Compassion causes you to lower your voice in a room full of leaders. Compassion causes you to give your last MRE to a soldier. You know, so when you have compassion, you could still be tough, but you have to remember that people come from broken homes and they enlist in the military. People have a story like myself who enlisted in the military because someone said they were going to be a father. That's the only reason why I joined. I wasn't patriotic. I wasn't gung-ho, but I tell you this, when you go into the Marine Corps, you can't help but be patriotic. You can't help but be a veteran marching in your home, you know, and your wife is telling you to calm down. So as leaders, lead with compassion and conviction and understand that everybody has a story. You know, and what do you want your story to be when you leave? When you're 99 years old or 100 years old, what do you want people to say about you when you walk in that room? Oh, there goes that jerk. He treated me like crap. She treated me like crap. They didn't understand what I was going through. I just lost my mom. I just lost my dad. I can't see my kids. I've been at war for a year and a half. And there's so much pressure in the military to perform, but there's not a lot of compassion. And I love a leader with compassion because I will go to war for him or her. I will stand on the front line for him or her. So, and to wrap it up, when I talk about compassion, one day, the reason why I got into RPG explosion is because I volunteered. That was the first time I volunteered for the military stuff, right? But they came up to me and said, Simmons, you want to go on a patrol? I said, that sounds great. I was in Mortar, Afghanistan. I was attached to 1st EOD, and we were with 2-9, and they're infantry, infantry division. So I was like, yeah, I want to go. I wake up the next morning. We get the captains briefing us, and they're like, all right, Simmons, we're going out in a V formation, shaped like a V. Hey, Simmons, we want you up front on the right side. I said, what? They said, we want you up front on the right side. And I was like, you going to put the black guy up front? I'm going to die first. And I seriously said that. I'm not lying. I said it. And they did not change where I was, right? So the black guy was up front. So here I am, and like I said, I was attached to EOD, so I ran the IED lane. And I took Lance Armstrong and Robin Williams through the IED course in 2010. And in the IED lane, we would teach people how to find bombs and look for disturbed earth and stuff like that. So it was really cool. So I'm out there. I'm on my patrol. This kid comes out, yelling in the Dari language. And the interpreter says, the Taliban just put an IED in the road. And that was the worst thing the black guy could ever want to hear, because it was like, okay, I'm about to die for real, right? And lo and behold, God thought it was funny for me to be standing in the intersection looking down my rifle scope, and I'm like, look by your foot. I hear this voice in my mind, like, look by your foot. I look by my foot, there's a haystack. Lift up the haystack. What? Okay, lifting up the haystack. Haystack, propane tank, cell phone strapped on top of it, 9-volt batteries, and I'm like, oh, right? Deer in the headlights, stuck. Secondary, tertiary bombs could be set, so I'm stuck. And I'm just praying to God. An atheist could have been converted immediately, right? So we had a radio jammer, put that down. And I wanted to share that part with you because as leaders, you never know what situation you're about to walk into. So I was so lucky that a sergeant calmed me down. I was a corporal at the time. The Sergeant Loudermilk, he said, Simmons, stay right there, calm down. How can you calm somebody down when the bomb is right by their foot? That is leadership, right? That is leadership because I trusted him with my life. Simmons, stay right there, don't move. I stayed right there. We were able to secure the bomb, and from there we all entered into combat with the Taliban for a couple of hours. We got Hellfire Strike, and we were able to make it out of there. So in everything that I've said with poetry, listen and lead with compassion and love your neighbor as you love yourself. So thank you.